Welcome back to the What Did He Mean by That podcast, now in video. I'm Chris Cali. I'm here with my wife, Ashley Cali, Pastor Chris Heimerle, and Robby Mckinney. This weekend, I preached about navigating toxic relationships. We took a look at David and how he navigated that relationship with Saul. Why don't you join us as we continue to talk about how David, through honoring God and his relationship with him, was able to float above the toxicity he had with Saul. Come on, Robby.
This brings me back.
Wrap it, Robby.
This was my generation, I think.
This song is a core memory. Every time I hear it,
Brittany.
I gotta channel my inner white girl.
It's Toxic by Brittany. Did you know that?
I did.
You did know that.
I know.
It's our
Remember the music
generation.
video where
We would
Starlight-
know this one.
It's your generation.
It
It's
is.
more yours right before mine.
Okay. It's not yours.
My Brittany is when she shaved her head.
I don't know what
That
makes
is
it. What age do you have to be for Brittany
Not
to be
old.
good? Brittany was always good. It's her.
Brittany never stopped being good.
No. Her and
Anyways.
Taylor.
Brittany is an icon.
I don't know about that.
Well, we're now a video podcast.
Yeah, first episode as a video podcast. 75 audio podcasts.
So
down.
our listener
Yeah.
can watch us now.
Yeah.
No more mistakes or like secretly communicating to each other. Like, who's up next? Are you up next? Then now you can see everything. This is good.
Oh, man. One of your things from this weekend that is so true that nothing affects our well-being or our emotions more than the people around us, right?
Yeah.
You want to throw me off for the whole day, get me in one bad conversation, and then
Yeah.
my day's a wreck.
Yep.
So how do we get above that? Just
Well-
like David.
Yeah, I think the real point to the whole, and maybe I didn't do this good on Saturday night, but it really hit me at the 9, was that, listen, like, just because you have a right relationship with God doesn't mean that there's like magic fairy dust that all of a sudden fixes all your relationships.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
Like, and David's life is evidence of that. Like, David's relationships were horrible.
Yeah.
Even you can have a great relationship with God, and your relationships with others could still be bad. Because remember, there's two people involved in that.
Yeah.
And even both, you can even have circumstances where both of you have really good relationships with God, but you disagree on stuff, and it can turn toxic. So, so I think that it is really not the idea that God just magically fixes everything. It's more the idea that David lived beyond that. He didn't let that affect his life.
I think that goes to your perspective thing from
Yeah.
last
Yeah,
week, too.
yeah. The builders laying bricks, right? And it's how you live how your relationship with God tempers the fact that your relationship with others is struggling at times. And why you can live beyond that is because those aren't your principal places of joy or happiness. It's your relationship with God. And again, that doesn't even mean that when your relationships are bad with others, that you aren't going to be sad, that you aren't going to be upset, that you aren't going to be angry. It's that you can live in the midst of that without being defeated and held captive by the toxicity around you.
How do you do that? Is it something that I have to remember? Is it something that I have to do? How do I move through those things?
And actually, I did not do a good job this weekend to explain where we were going to go from here. It was kind of like I got to the point where I had to do communion, and I was like, oh crap! I didn't even. I gotta move this along.
Part 2 next week.
Yeah, but part 2. Who would have thought I'd do 2 weeks in a passage about taking 200 foreskins from men? But
Did everyone tell their kids?
yeah, but we're actually gonna linger in a foreskin passage, and see how did David do that? Like, David did that through humility. It's and that's what I'm gonna preach about this weekend. That the power that David had was humility. And But humility isn't self-deprecation. Like, it's not hating yourself.
Yeah.
Because you see this humility, he recognizes that he's not just going to be given sonship to the king. And so he twice he makes the statement, who am I to be the son-in-law of the king? This humility. But then when they say, well, here's what you need to do it, he says, okay, I can do that.
Yeah, he still adds.
Yeah. And it almost goes along with, I won't give a sacrifice to the Lord that costs me nothing. In other words, I'm not going to take this thing, this prestige, without paying the price for it. And when you look at our relationships, really the most toxic relationships that we have are relationships where we think we're owed something by the person.
Yeah.
Right? And that really spirals into toxicity. And when you start to realize that, hey, no one really owes us anything. We owe God everything. That humility starts to be a basis.
And I think it goes into the part where you even brought up back in Genesis, and it's where is our fear coming from? And you talked about, is it really fear from David or is our fear from God? And I liked how you even continued in the line of Genesis, and you were like, later in Genesis, they try to bury their fear with entertainment. Well, that sounds like today.
And I only did that in one service.
And I think that's so good because it's like that is how you don't live above it. I guess there's one, what do we do? Well, what do we not do is that.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I think I only did that in the 11. So Saturday night, and if you were there the Saturday night in the 9, we talked about as you come out of the fall, where the entrance of fear into the lives of people, you see Cain and Abel, the murder that takes place, and then God's face is turned towards Cain, and it's the judgment of God, and he sends Cain off, and what Cain does is he builds a city to himself, and then you see this language like that's where the arts and that's where music and it started to flourish in the city. And it's the idea that when we're faced with the judgment of God in our lives, and the fact that death is a reality, and outside of Jesus Christ, death is fearful. The best thing we have outside of Jesus is to try to forget about it, and to try to entertain ourselves and get it off our minds. And so, how do we do that?
Yeah.
Sports, art, music. Everything but think about the truth.
Yeah, the decompression.
The truth of where life is bringing us.
One of the points you brought up too was he's afraid because he knows he was in rebellion against God. And I think we feel that a lot. Like, I know nothing makes me more afraid than thinking I'm going to get caught. Yeah. Right? Like, and constantly living like that. It's not because I think I'm going to get caught. It's because I did something in rebellion of God that I think I'm going to get caught for,
Yeah. And when you live in rebellion, even as a Christian, when you're living in habitual sin, times in my life when anxiety really got me. Like, I can look back in my life when like panic attacks were like intense and hard. It was probably, and not probably, it was because I was in habitual sin, that I knew I was sinning. And so you have this like undercurrent of fear because you're in rebellion against God, and then your chemical makeup of your body and all that stuff,
and the stress of life you're putting
and all
on
that
you.
stuff going around, and we wonder why am I having these massive panic attacks? Now that's not everyone. Some people have real anxiety problems, but you should check your life and see if that underlying fear isn't because you're living in some habitual sin that you're not repentant of. Because in your subconscious, if you're trying to just deny it and entertain yourself, deep down you really know that it's there.
I also think it's important to, you noted at the end about how this isn't a quick fix. Like, you're saying the answer is Jesus, but it's just not that simplistic, and it's not a quick fix, which I think the world lives in a quick fix mentality. So how do you train yourself against that?
Yeah, it would have been really great. It would have been a great message to be able to say to people, if you get your relationship with God right, all your other relationships are just going to fall in line. But it's just not reality. That's not how life works, because we live in a fallen world. And most of us are we're gonna struggle with toxic relationships because we're gonna work in the world. Workplaces are probably one of the most toxic places to live in, because because you're working with a bunch of people a lot of times that they're out for themselves. And so it's like you're pit against people. I've worked the last 18 years of my life in high-end finance, a lot of money at stake, and people ready to, that they'll, some people just throw you under the bus to climb up the ladder. And it can be very toxic. Or families can be insanely toxic because you love each other, but the people that you can get hurt from the most, the wounds that cut deep, come from people that you love the most. So there's a real possibility that families can be insanely toxic. So there's just not a quick remedy to this whole thing. It's sanctification. It's growing in the likeness of Christ. Look at Jesus Christ. He sat at a table with the guy that betrayed him. You know what I mean? And he washed his feet.
He came to serve,
Didn't he wash
not
his feet?
to be served.
Judas was there when he washed the feet. He hadn't left yet.
Yeah.
Good pastor I am. I don't even know, but I think he washed his feet. And that just, again, that's that humility that he knew ultimately his issue wasn't Judas.
Yeah.
His issue was he was going to pay for the sins of all of us. We were all his issue. And he was coming to die for us.
I wanna
That's
kind
our
of
dog.
focus on I want to focus on humility for a second, because I feel like that's such an easy one to overlook. How can we examine our own lives? It's actually a two-part question. How can we examine our own lives and start to recognize when we are not in a place of humility and start to put corrections in place? And then how do we address somebody else who might not be in a place of humility? Because that doesn't come off easy.
So the only verse that I've ever really memorized in my life.
John 3:16.
No, seriously. No, like big long verses. I got the worst memory. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but with lowliness of mind, esteem others greater than yourself. And
What's that fine?
I don't even know. I don't know. But seriously, it's that selfish ambition, conceit, esteem others greater than yourself. I mean, look at David over and over and over again. The one place where he wasn't successful in that was with Uriah. The guy that was so much more noble than him, he wouldn't even go in and sleep in his home because the guys he was fighting with were not sleeping in their homes. But then all these other times in his lives, esteeming others higher than himself, looking at the king and saying, I can't be your son-in-law by it just being given to me. Selfish ambition would have said, boom, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Boom, I'll take that.
Yeah.
So are we always looking to get the next thing, to get at the expense of other people? Be the right person in the fight with your spouse or with your friend?
So I guess for me, I start to wrestle with, how do you know if it's selfish ambition or just like, hey, I want to do well at work. I want to be successful. I want to take care of my wife and my kids and my family. Yeah. How do you decipher between selfish ambition and just
Are you stepping on someone else to get there?
Yeah, that's good.
Are you hurting someone else to get there?
And are you changing your character to get there?
Are you doing something out of character to get there? Is there something or are you just walking the
working
pathway
hard
and diligently working and getting there? I think it's very easy to step on other people and use people as pawns to get ahead. And even in simple relationships, like with your spouse or with your children, for me at least, it's, do you have to be right? Like, do you? Yeah, are you laughing? do you have to be right in that moment, or can you step back and say,
peace?
Yeah? Can you step back and say, it's not about me being right? I can't. I have to be right.
It's a work in progress,
and that's just
Robby.
one of the things.
I have a different scenario, but you're in a toxic relationship with somebody, a boss, coworker, family member.
A boss?
Sorry. How walking in humility, do I have to keep on setting myself up by getting hurt in it? Or how do I work through that?
Well, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. Like most of us just can't up and quit our job, right?
Yeah.
So we usually have to live with some level of toxicity. And I think it's recognizing that doesn't define who you are as a person.
That's good.
Like what someone else says about you or what someone else thinks about you isn't as important as what God thinks about you. I think there's a level in that where you do have to walk away, like where it's like verbally abusive or physically abusive, especially if you're a spouse or a child, like when it raises to the level of abuse, you need to get help. Like that's not the time to be humble, and that's the time to get help. You don't let someone abuse you. But there's a level where it's not verbal abuse or physical abuse that I think just sometimes in this life we got to learn to live with, and David was living with it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with calling someone out. Like, saying, why are you so mad? What are you so upset? Do you have an issue with me? I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. But I think it's just navigating it. It can be very difficult. So you got to be aware of what level it's at, whether you need to live with it or you want to live with it. I think defending yourself is fine. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, why are you talking to me like this? Why are you treating... Maybe the person just doesn't even know it. Because the reality is they're probably wrapped up in fear and they have no peace. And there's a reason they're acting that way. Yeah. And that can help us too in navigating that type of stuff.
Thanks for listening to today's episode on the What Did He Mean by That podcast. This podcast is designed to go into the weekend messages at Northside Church. We hope for you to join us this weekend, Saturday at 6 p.m. and Sunday at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. See you there.